after this documentary, and you would think that like, this documentary has been out for like maybe 8 years now, and I've probably watched it a million times, and it just gets harder probably because like not only because it was super old and I looked really cringe and young, but because I think every time I watch it, I come to like a sudden realization, you know, that like oh crap, that's me. Like I'm really going through it, you know. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years now, probably even before my dad was put in prison. Throughout the trial, we were always outside protesting and stuff, and I feel like, to be honest with you, like, I'm going to talk to you guys as if I've known y'all, and I'm going to be really real with you, okay? Because I really want you guys to understand the struggle that we went through as a family. The political side, you guys already know everything about that. Can you hear me without the mic? Yeah. So, hello. Okay. So if anyone you can read about the politics, you guys can watch the documentary, you already saw everything that's, you know, all the facts, right? But no one is gonna tell my story like myself, and that's what I want people to know. I want you guys to know everything that family has gone through, because honestly, they're put in prison, yeah, but they're also punishing the family. Honestly, I didn't put the drums for y'all. I don't know what else to say. My dad is doing well. He's doing as good as he can be. It is getting harder for him. You know, going back to what I was saying, I think like over the years, we're kind of like just disassociating that like with the life that I'm living, like in the moment. And then when I'm watching, we're just like, oh crap, you know? And then when I'm visiting him, it's like I'm looking at a man that I don't even know. Every single time that I go visit him, he looks different. Yeah, his spirits are still high, he's still the same person, but on the outside, it's like I don't even recognize him. And I'll show you guys a picture in a bit. But it's getting harder on him, y'all. And it's funny because he's the one that, like, throughout everything that's ever happened, throughout the hardest moments in our life, whenever he calls, he's the one checking up on us. He's the one that is trying to make us laugh and just trying to, you know, lighten up the mood. And he's always asking us, like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? We ask him, Baba, no, like, how are you? Are you doing okay? Are you like feeling okay? He doesn't tell us anything because, of course, he doesn't want us to worry about him. And throughout all these years, we've always kind of in the back of our head had this thought, like, what if something happens to him? What if something happens to him in prison? And then you're like, nah, it's not going to happen. But in fact, last year, this month, my dad almost died. Now, he is currently held in USP Beaumont, the federal penitentiary. It's a maximum security prison, and it's actually on the Forbes list of one of the most violent and deadliest prisons in the U.S. Now, a man like my dad doesn't even belong there. Even the charges that he was put into prison for are non-violent charges. So why put a man who's fed orphans all over the world in a prison like that? It does not make sense. Now, let me tell you guys what happened. Last year, this month, he inhaled gases that the guard used to break up a fight. Now, over there where my dad is at, they're very notorious for their gang fights. To where, like, my dad sees someone die almost every other day. He watches people die right in front of him, and he can't do anything about it. Because if you go help someone out, you can be masked. Anyway, he inhaled the gases. There was a really bad fight. He inhaled the gases and collapsed to the ground. He turning blue, and if it wasn't for the other inmates. And my dad, like, everyone respects him in the prison. Of course, like, you have, like, some racists and stuff, but for the most part, everyone respects him because he's one of the eldest people there, one of the oldest people there, and everyone looks up to him as like a dad or a grandpa. They were urging the COs to get my dad medical help. Now, mind you, when there's a fight going on, when there's a gang fight, the COs back away because these men have knives. They will stab everyone and anyone, and everyone in the room is wearing the same khaki suit. So the COs, of course, can't distinguish like, oh, that's Baker, let's go help him. They can't do that because they'll also put their life at risk. So yeah, if it wasn't for the other inmates urging them to help my dad, he would have died. Like, it came to the point where my dad saw everyone who's passed in our family. He saw them and like they greeted him. So he woke up the next day in the hospital, surprised, like he didn't know that he made it. And of course, we went a week without hearing from him. It's normal for us to go that long without hearing from him. We can go a whole month without hearing from him. That's totally normal because of the nature of that prison. They're always on lockdown due to those fights. But yeah, that's just something that we've always been worried about, and then it happened. And you know, it's crazy because my dad was sentenced to 65 years in prison, and he's already in his 60s. So if we don't do anything about this, he will die in prison. And the same thing actually happened a couple weeks ago. He could have died. The same thing happened. He inhaled gases. So because of where he's at, he is at a huge risk of getting hurt, possibly even death. But he does not let any of that break his spirit, which is insane because I feel like me being on the outside, just knowing that my dad is in there, I might go crazy one of these days, you know? But to see how resilient he is inside a tiny cell, not seeing daylight at all, it's truly inspiring. And I'm not just saying that because he's my dad, but because he's a hero, you know? I do have like a little slideshow I wanted to show you guys. This is Kanata. You guys saw her in the documentary. Kanata was actually the reason why the WOLPalestine Foundation was born. She was born with 3 chronic illnesses, thalassemia, cystic fibrosis, and diabetes. And my dad was sitting in the hospital one day, and he was like, you know, I'm so thankful for the medical attention my daughter's getting. I want to be able to give that to the children overseas. I want to be able to provide for those who don't have much resources. And so the HLF was born with Sanathan. And honestly, many people don't even know that. They just know as the HLF, the WOLPalestine Foundation was a terrorist organization that wanted to provide aid to Palestinian militants. I don't know how they got to that, but this is the reason why the HLF was born, because of my sister. He had a pure intention, but of course they will twist that around, and the reality is they don't want Palestinians to succeed here in the U.S. and in Palestine. The WOLPalestine Foundation was one of the largest charities in the U.S. It is just called that as a threat. They don't want Palestinians to get the resources that they need for their education, to build schools, hospitals, libraries, you name it. The HLF provided that. So, growing up, we were super close with the Sananashi's family. My dad and the Sananashi are both sentenced to 65 years in prison, and they're all 1 year apart. We grew up, like like-minded family, and we were always taught to respect people regardless of color, regardless of the language that they speak. And being born and raised in Texas, it's so diverse out there. Like, we had respect for absolutely everyone. Now, would a terrorist encourage you to go out there and make friends with your Costa Rican neighbor? Would they encourage you to go pursue your degree in the arts? Would they encourage you to go and study different musics of the world? I highly doubt it. And that's who my dad was. That's who the Sen actually were. They pushed their daughters, or they encouraged their daughters to do anything they want in this world. And this is a photo of my family and my dad. You can see this is just maybe a little bit after he went to prison. This is the prison my dad is at, USP Beaumont. Oh man, I want to show you guys this video. It's just a video of, I wanted you guys to hear my dad's voice talking about what he had requested to move to a lower security prison, and they denied it. Because a man like my dad belongs in a prison like that. He said, in the video, he said he's not criminal enough to move to a lower security prison. So this right here, are beads made out of bread. Like, every single bead is handmade and hand rolled out of bread. And this is this crazy project that my dad took on in the middle of COVID. Of course, I'm sure you all know, but like, when you're in prison, you end up like just coming up with like the craziest, most creative ideas. And I've seen that with all of the HLF5. They end up producing like this amazing work of art that no one else would ever think of. One day my dad was sitting in his cell playing with a piece of bread, and he had left it out, and he saw the next day like how it hardened and turned into a rock. And so he came up with the idea, you know what, let me try this a little more. Next thing you know, he had hundreds of beads laying out, drying out, and he turned them into these prayer beads. I wish I had them with me. I usually read them, but I forgot this time. But it just shows you that, seriously, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you can seriously do something, you can make something out of nothing. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it's a very inspiring thing. Like, sometimes I'll tell you the truth, like, just sitting at home, feel like giving up, like, you've gone through so much in life, and you just don't know what else to do with your life, right? Like, don't we sometimes just sit there and be like, what's next? What am I going to do next? I'm out of ideas. Like, I can't even write a single Instagram post anymore because I'm just, like, tired of writing, and I used to be a really good writer. But, like, just seeing my dad's artwork, he's sending artwork all the time. Just seeing that is like proof that you can make something out of your life, you know? And frankly, like, these men don't even deserve to be in prison. These are some t-shirts that my dad designed. Again, I wish I brought them with me, but I just wanted to show you guys also a timeline, like a visual timeline. The picture to the farthest left is my dad, I think maybe 3 or 4 years after being in prison. That's my nephew. That's my nephew right there. The middle is a couple years after that. And And then the very last picture to the right is the most recent photo of him. He probably sucked it out a couple weeks ago. And when I saw it, I just immediately went numb. I looked at it and I'm like, is that my dad? And having these pictures right next to each other just shows you that like 15 years has been way too long. Yeah. Way too long. And you don't even realize it until like you're looking at these pictures. When I think of my dad, I still think of him as like this man in a suit, you know, like dark hair. It's so hard to just look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's my dad. It's crazy. And I feel like sometimes I need to snap back into reality. I don't even, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Yeah. Like I said, it's been 15 years and it just gets harder and harder to talk about it because when you're talking about it, just realizing that this is your life. It still feels like yesterday when the FBI raided our home. I was only maybe 10 years old. They raided my home with like 20 agents storming through, guns pointed at our heads. I truly felt like I was in Palestine because this is the stuff that you would see on the news happening to our Palestinian brothers and sisters, but no one happened here in the U.S. and Texas. And then the day of the verdict was just a little other story. I was 14 at the time, and I got to the courthouse a little late, and they wouldn't let me through. My sister and I, they wouldn't let us through. And I started yelling at the guard. Next thing you know, you see my dad coming through. And I don't know how they let him through because the court session had already started. They let him through. He took me by the hand, he guided me in there, and that's just what he's been doing my whole life. He's been taking my hand, guiding me, and just motivating me throughout my whole life. And he did that over there too. He was telling me that it's gonna be okay. He even told me, he's like, listen, you better behave or else we're not gonna get McDonald's on the way back. But we were sitting through that whole shit show, excuse my language, and next thing you know, I just heard the verdict. I heard guilty, guilty, guilty. And at that moment, I couldn't take it. Me being the person that I am, the person my father raised me to be, I stood up and I started yelling at the judge. I was a small, short 14-year-old girl, but at that moment I felt just so big and powerful. Like the adrenaline was just taking over, and I started yelling at him. I said, you can't do that. All they did was help people all over the world, and Americans, and this is how you repay him? My dad is not an animal. You can't lock him up in a cage. And when I tell you his face turned red, it turned so red. And he told me, you better sit down, or else I will have you arrested as well. And that's when all the guards came around me, and they were trying to grab me, and my mom stood up and was like, no, you can't take her. She's a minor, she's only 14. You can't do this. And we sat back down. And that right there it just shows you also what kind of person my mother is. She has been my dad's ride or die. Okay, I'm telling you, the women of the HLF5 are some of the strongest women I have ever met. They held down the fort, okay? They had to be the mother and the father. My mother had to drive every single day, take us to school, and go visit my sister at the hospital. Sanada, with her 3 chronic illnesses, was always in and out of the hospital, sometimes spending even months in the hospital. She would go there every single day. And she would still come home, make us dinner, and raise us as if our father isn't in prison. She wanted us to continue living our life. She wanted us to have a social life, go to school, get an education, go to college, and do whatever we wanted in life. And, you know, I also think that, like, if it wasn't for my mom, my dad probably wouldn't be as strong as how he is right now. Sorry, I totally butchered the sentence. None of us would be as strong today, you know, and that's just, it's really important also to surround yourself with people that are only going to strengthen you and not bring you down. And my mother totally did that. You know, and it's been 15 years. My father, he's missed out on so many things. He's missed out on the death of my sister. With the death of my sister, he missed my wedding, he missed my divorce. And I'm telling you that, like, I'm a single mom now, and now only with one child, I see just how hard my mom had it. She raised four daughters on her own, and one of them had an illness. Like, I can't even imagine how hard it would have been for her. But yeah, again, thank you all for being here. And I know, like, it was just, my thoughts are all over the place right now. So I hope that was everything.
Yeah.
And campaign right now, a whole different campaign. It's moving last year. She's working tirelessly on this campaign. But for now, WOL has amazing resources. Go check out their website and the campaign that they work on. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you, WOL. ScreeningDiscussion has been also amazing. And Notes from Shukri is my father's blog. He has his poems, which I will read at the end. You guys can read more up there. And then Bread and Beads is the website where you can purchase some beads, but we don't have anything available right now.
Yeah.
However, you can go browse and see how beautiful they are. But thank you guys.
Glad I got the honor to be here in Nidat's presence and that you all got to share that honor with me. As you can tell, she's extremely powerful representative of Palestinian women who are on the front lines of facing, you know, their loved ones going to prison, not just in Palestine, you know, the way that we see it on social media, but even here in the U.S. So it's very difficult to follow Nidat, of course, but I think it's really important that you all take to heart every single word that she said here tonight and make sure that it impacts your actions moving forward. This is not just limited to tonight, because as we gather here on Lenape land in New York City, there's another level of complicity that we hold, aside from the fact that the U.S. is inherently complicit in Palestinian oppression, including Palestinians in American prisons. A New York connection that we need to keep in mind is that in the 1990s, New York Democrats Chuck Schumer, Eliot Spitzer, Anthony Weiner, along with Zionist orgs like the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, lobbied the Clinton administration to shut down the Holy Land Foundation. And this wasn't just another Republican attack on the HLF under Bush. It was bipartisan. It was endorsed. It was supported by the Democrats as well. It was an effort to criminalize Palestinians for charitable giving in the U.S. Meanwhile, Zionist settler NGOs are tax exempt, and they can fundraise for illegal settlements freely in the U.S. And the U.S. can send millions of dollars in military funding to the genocidal Zionist occupation army that massacres Palestinians constantly. But feeding orphans led to Shukri and Hassan getting 65 years in prison. 65 years. As the injustice system claims they were supporting Palestinian terrorism. Because effectively, 80% of Palestinian society are declared terrorists by the U.S. because we dare to resist Israeli settler colonization. But I'll keep this short. November 24th is the 15th anniversary of the wrongful conviction of the Holy Land Foundation 5. A conviction that would probably not have even taken place today, but was fanned by the climate of anti-Palestinian, racist, Islamophobic rhetoric and political climate post 9/11. According to the Holy Land 5 defense team, as you saw in this documentary, the use of anonymous witnesses had no precedent in the history of the U.S. judicial system, as you saw. And this is why recourse will not be found in the legal system. It must be through people power. Even a pardon or exoneration or any of these methods would take sustained grassroots organizing to push legal organizations to demand justice and to push for the public to demand the release of the remaining members of the Holy Land 5 who are still in prison immediately. We know this happened because of their work to support Palestinian liberation and because they are part of Muslim communities. And that's why it's important to understand that fighting for Palestine is fighting for prisoners. We understand that this injustice occurred by the U.S. imperialist apparatus, and it will not be undone voluntarily, but it must be demanded and taken by force. This past year, we've worked with the Coalition for Civil Freedoms and Samadoun and many other organizations to relaunch the campaign to free the Holy Land Foundation 5. This is the hashtag that we use on social media across different platforms. So make sure that you're plugged into that to contribute to the campaign. Because now that you know the facts, it's important to ask yourself what's next. It's important to discuss why we need to organize to fight for their freedom. It's important to talk about collective struggle, organization, coalition building, and for all of you to join the campaign. Your organizations can sign on. You can download, if you're just an individual, you can download materials on our website, learn about the case, and join us in mobilizing next month on the 15-year anniversary. We have papers up front over there where people can scan the QR code for the campaign page. They can take photos with different signs expressing their solidarity. And again, I'll sum up my entire message with a single quote by Medak's father that explains it more eloquently than I ever could. So long as there is injustice, it becomes the responsibility of each and every one of us to stand up, speak up, and do something about it. Shukri Abu Bakr. It's that simple, and I hope that the discussion tonight will keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move towards the discussion portion of the evening. So we're not going to actually make a circle, but kind of pull your chairs and just kind of turn and face everyone. So we're going to kind of make it less of an audience situation and more of a kind of all looking at each other.